So after calibration, to now choose a protocol, we need to go into Metasoft Studio. And then when that opens, you're presented with this first screen. And so the first thing you see are the patients, the participants or the athletes that have already been tested. So you may have entered in some details already in your sort of practice attempts. So if you had someone ready here, then you could choose the correct person. So I'll just choose myself, for example. And then what you'll notice is if you choose a person, the next function sort of flashes at you. So if you look down the bottom left-hand corner, it's flashing next, and that's because you've selected what you need to, and it's just prompting you what to do next. If you did not have a person pre-installed or saved, please don't worry. What you can do is on the right-hand side where my cursor is now, where it says edit, that would say new, and you would just enter in their personal details. I won't show you that screen, it's just literally enter first name, surname, date of birth, and so on. So whichever you need to do is absolutely fine. So that's the person details. Then on the left-hand side of the screen, you see there are some options, and what we've done for you, because you typically do this in a place of work, you create your own protocol. So this is the University of Suffolk Basic CPET, so it's cardiopulmonary exercise test. So I will click that. So what we've done is we've stripped away a number of the functions that we don't really need for this module or for this assessment. You've already calibrated previously, so we just need to pick the person and the protocol really. So pick UOS Basic CPET, and then I will say next. And then what you're then presented with is just the person details again to check, and the size of the mask up here. And if you've already entered in the person's details, then of course this should be correct. You would normally check for weight again. So if you were testing me, for example, you might recheck my weight if it had been a few days or weeks, or of course more since you last weighed me. But it's just really asking you to check this. And again, next is sort of flashing or pulsing for us, so we'll say next. And then it takes us on to the protocol selection. Now, this is where you can either select a pre-installed test, so some of these names should sound familiar, and for those of you doing clinical exercise physiology, again, these will become familiar. Some of them are more sort of clinically oriented. So you've got Bruce protocols, Bolt protocols, Norton's and so on. And don't forget, the blue lines indicate gradient and the red lines indicate treadmill speed. And again, for the purpose of this assessment, we'll be focusing on the treadmill. So you can choose a test if you wanted to, or you can create what's called a regular test in this software. And again, you should be used to these. You've got either a step test or an incremental step test. So here's an example where gradient and speed increase over time. Or you've got a ramp or a smooth ramp protocol, where now if we look at the red line for treadmill speed, it continuously increases. Now, it does not necessarily matter what you choose within reason. What we'll ask you are things like, well, why this protocol? Why would you want a ramp, or why would you want a step incremental test? So if you're asked, for example, to test for VO2 max of a person, then what protocol might you choose? And if we said, oh, well, why didn't you choose something else? That's absolutely fine, but do you have a reason for choosing the protocol you did? And have also then, therefore, a reason for not choosing a protocol that you did not. So just remember the key differences between maybe an incremental step test that maybe has a step length of 3.5, 4 minutes maybe. What do you get from that? Or what are you able to measure? And then with a smooth ramp protocol, what do you maybe lose, but what does it become very efficient for measuring? Obviously, without sort of giving you the answer and giving the game away, I can't go much further, but we've covered this in previous modules and previous weeks. So it does not matter necessarily what you choose, as long as you have a justification. The thing, again, you might want to avoid is if you were asked to test the VO2 max of an athletic person, then maybe you might want to avoid a protocol that is more clinically oriented. So maybe look at the speed, look at the gradients. Would this probably stress an athletic individual to the point of fatigue if you wanted VO2 max? And also, if we look at something like the Norton protocol, there's nothing wrong with the Norton protocol for its intended use. But again, would you want to use this if you had an athletic individual come in asking for a VO2 max assessment? Probably not. And of course, there are reasons why. And those are the things that we'd like to sort of tease out from you during your assessment. So you can choose your test. I'll just leave that. And here you can see if you create regular and you want to create your own step or ramp, you can see here are the elements that you can adjust if you want to. And again, we might ask you things like, well, why is start speed important? Why is gradient important? Why might you want 1% steady gradient? What does that maybe represent or replicate for non-treadmill running? Or why might you want to use gradient? What can that help induce? So we'll be asking you about why. Why is more important than remembering the button order to click. So once you've chosen your protocol, if you just look over to the right-hand side now, we've got two further boxes, and we've got one which is device configuration. So if I just click, as you can see, as I move over the cursor now to the right-hand side, it turns into a hand shape. Click on device configuration, and you now get all of the things that can be attached through the metabolic cart or the Cortex. So you see here's the treadmill, the HP Cosmos Mercury, and when it's orange or yellow like this on the on-off, it means that it's turned on. The metallizer, of course, will always be on. The things won't work otherwise. So we've got the polar belt, the wireless receiver, that's set on to record wireless heart rates, and then the treadmill will also be by default on. Just if you want to, you can click this arrow down here and you can check a connection. So if you click that, it will just check the connection for you to the treadmill. And then you've got the bicycles, which are currently off, so the on-off is white. And again, we don't need the bicycles for this particular assessment, but if you were using them, then you would just click that and turn the bike on. Now moving over again to the right-hand side, you've got flow sensor calibration. So you can click this, and this again is just the where you can use the plunger or syringe, volume syringe. But you've already done this probably in the calibration, of course. So in this circumstance, you can ignore this. And likewise, you've got sensor adjustment here that would take an ambient air reading, but you've just done this for a full calibration. So for this particular time, you don't need to do it. But if you do, it doesn't matter at all. But you don't need to do it if you've just calibrated. This is designed really for if you haven't calibrated for a while and you see the start sensor adjustment up there. So I'll bring back the protocol. So this is just an example. I'm not saying this is the one you should choose. So we'll now click next. So this is where you get this warning about the sensor adjustment is not yet performed, continue anyway. In this particular circumstance, we've calibrated, so we're happy. If you were at work, in your place of work, and you hadn't calibrated, then you would actually want to do that sensor adjustment. But we'll just say, yes, we're happy, we've calibrated. And then again, it gives you the same warning. Then you get the overview test screen. So this is the 9-panel plot that you're used to. And if you look on the left-hand side, so follow the cursor now, left-hand side of the screen, and under View, this little button option here says Select Screen, and if I click that, I get all these options. So there's the 9-panel plot, and if I click Workload Control Heart Rate, it then takes me to an overview of the protocol that you've chosen. So again, remember that means you can warn the athlete about when treadmill speeds or gradients might change. So it gives you an overview of where they are in your protocol, and then you get the window boxes here that give you some of the key measurements. So that's how you choose the workload and heart rate control screen. And then when you're happy to go, the play button up here for start test will allow you to start the test, and then it will initiate the treadmill. And at this point you want to make sure, of course, that your athlete, your participant, is wearing the face mask with the turbine in, because it'll be looking for some registered breaths to start the protocol as well. And then when you're underway, just underneath you'll have an option, as well as skip current step, there will be an option that says go to recovery. So should your athlete, participant, need to go to the recovery stage, midway through a protocol, let's say, the recovery will skip them straight to the recovery, which in this protocol is where my cursor is here. You can also stop the treadmill, but we tend to prefer going to recovery because it's a bit more of a gentle ease down rather than a straightforward stop. So there you go. It's all been sort of made efficient, hopefully, for you. So there are no superfluous menus to go through for this particular module's assessment. And like I say, have reasons, have answers, or just discuss why you might have chosen a particular protocol. We can help you if you forget the particular button order of clicking. That's not all that important. Those things change over time anyway. And so everyone has to learn new software. But what's really important, or more important, is do you know why you're doing certain things? Why would you choose a certain protocol? Why do you want that gradient? Why do you want a ramp or a step incremental test? That's the key thing. So hopefully that's helped. You'll all do really well, I'm sure. And good luck in your assessment.